Hey, welcome to Mineral Talks Live, the weekly live webinar that brings you in-depth and in-person interviews with the mineral people from around the world. Mineral Talks Live is brought to you by a joint effort among the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, and Blue Cap Productions. Tune in every Wednesday and stay connected to your mineral world. Now, broadcasting live from beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, the land of aloha, ukuleles, and shakas, this is Mineral Talks Live. Hello to all our viewers around the world. Today is Wednesday, December 9th, 2020, and that puts us 1 week closer to the holidays. We hope that all your bells are jingling, but just remember, sometimes being naughty is nice. Welcome to episode 28 of Mineral Talks Live, the weekly mineral talk show broadcasting to you live every Wednesday. I'm Brian Swoboda, president of Blue Cap Productions, and I'm here to tell you that every day with you is a Feliz Navidad for me. For people tuning in for the first time, Mineral Talks Live is a weekly webinar put on by myself representing Blue Cap Productions, Dr. Raquel Alonso Perez representing the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, and Dr. Eloise Gaillou representing the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, also known as the SMMP. For these shows, I'll be broadcasting to you live from Honolulu, Hawaii, while Raquel is enjoying that first snowfall in Boston, Massachusetts. Eloise, who is normally joining us from the French countryside, is unfortunately not able to join us today, but she is here in spirit as always. Now, I share this information with you so that you understand that you're part of a global show, and it's your participation that helps to make this show what it is. How can you participate, you ask aloud, as your three French hens wondered what happened to the fourth one? Now, that's a great question, so let me tell you. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of buttons. There's one button labeled Chat and another labeled Q&A. The chat feature allows you to type messages to everyone watching and participating in the show. You'll see that many people like to fire off a hello in the chat when they first sign on. We love this as it shows us where you're from in the world, so don't be shy. Give a shout out to your city. Now, during the interview, our guest and I will be focused on our conversation and not really looking at the chat window. However, today, Raquel will be very active in those chats, so look for her comments along with everyone else's. At times during the interview, Raquel may interject with questions that you're asking so that we can get an immediate answer from our guests while they're still on the topic. And the second way to interact with the program is through the Q&A function. This allows you to submit general questions that we'll try to answer at the end of the interview. So for those of you still wondering about my comments about the 4 French hens instead of 3, immediate questions, use the chat, general questions, use the Q&A. Finally, at about 40 minutes into the program, you may see a window pop up on the screen asking a bunch of questions for our weekly poll. These are questions we carefully curate for each guest, so play along, and the next time you see today's guest at a show, you can use these as an icebreaker. Speaking of today's guest, we're headed back to his home country, where the song O Tannenbaum originated. Broadcasting you live from Müllheim, Germany, only about an hour and a half away from Sainte-Marie-aux-Mines, I'd like to present a man who gets excited when he overlooks Hall A6, Fabian Wildfang. Fabian, how are you today?
Thank you. I'm great. Despite the snow out there, I feel very warm welcome from all of you. Thank you very much.
Well, you look fantastic, my friend. I'm really glad that you could join us on the show today.
And I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Wonderful. Fabian, as you like to know, a lot of times on the show, what I like to do is I like to turn back the clock on the people we're interviewing. So let's try that right now. How did you first get interested with mineral collecting? And what was the first specimen that grabbed your attention?
I was afraid you were asking this. Typically when you're in an interview, you have to explain your CV. You don't start that early on because mineral collecting has been something that has been occupying all my life.
Yeah.
And so, as you know, I was born at the edge of the Black Forest with all its mine dumps and quarries, and the River Rhine Valley with all its alluvial deposits. So it came natural to me as a young boy to understand the distinction between a pebble, a gravel, and a rock. And I think this distinction is very helpful when building a nice mineral collection. But of course, I didn't know that at the age of 1 or 2. But as many of us, I picked up any kind of rocks that I could get hold of while hiking with my parents. typically these mostly pebbles, admittedly, they went in front of my window in the garden, and so they did not make it into the home. Two minerals were part of our family life. One was a citrine, which today I know it was just a heat-treated amethyst that were very famous back then. That was a rock that my sister had. Don't know where she got it from. And my brother had an agate nodule, so cut in the middle. And so that was not so much my cup of tea, but he also had a curiosity cabinet, with coins and maybe something like a sugar cube or something. But there was also a little rock crystal in there. And I noticed that, and it did not have many meaning to me at that time. But maybe at the age of 5, 6, I once was playing with a friend, and it was this kind of child game where you need to have a prize to fight for. And there I remembered that this rock crystal would do for a cute prize for that game. So in a clandestine operation, I went into the room of my brother and snatched that rock crystal. We had our play, and instead of bringing that back, I decided to keep it for myself. And that very true mineral was the beginning of my mineral collection.
So you accidentally forgot to return it.
I accidentally forgot to return it. And I still have it.
I love it.
The special meaning of that is that's been the foundation. In terms of aesthetics, and we will be talking about it later, it's not a perfect 10, but maybe a 1.5. But it's my number 1 in terms of my internal designation. So at least
I love that, Fabian. I love when collectors, especially prominent collectors like yourself, that they keep that first specimen, and it usually pales in comparison with everything else in their collection, but it's almost still like one of the ones that they're most proud of.
Yeah, lucky me, the rock crystals don't pale so by themselves. So I'm a lucky guy. I'm not sure whether my parents fully approved of the way I started my collection career, but they were great supporters in my future life. And they were no collectors themselves, maybe some stamps, but no minerals for sure. Mm-hmm. But they were a great help and support. And for my 7th birthday, I got a book that was very famous at that time in Germany. It was the BLV Mineralienführer, so a mineral companion. And I got that for my 7th birthday, and I quickly learned that by heart. You will probably tell me that this is not the way to learn minerals, but for me it was one way of doing it. And what this book had, it had like a rarity score. You see these like cake diagrams with the red fillings. And right. So it goes from being very rare to abundant. And of course, I decided that these minerals, and I made a short list of them, I want to have for my collection. And the rarities were among them the top on my list. Like the Brazilianite. I mean, that was supposed to be very rare, and it's named after a country. Gee, I like to have that. And so I gave the short list to my father.
My father's association with Brazilianite, I'm sure.
You will tell me in confidence one day,
okay.
I'm sure. So this short list I handed to my father, and he was traveling in business these days. And so whenever he saw a rock shop, he put that list on the counter and said, if you have something in the $10 range, just take samples here and I decide which to pick. And so I knew there was a constant flow of mineral samples coming for those who can wait and behave. So it was a good lever on me to behave, and I have to confide in you that I'm no longer obliged these days to behave. But back then it was an important way to expand my collection. And
very smart of your parents.
Yes, but the year later, after this, we went to my first mineral show. That was in Freiburg, so close to here, next city. And I explained to my parents all the rocks you could find there at the booth. So it's a fluorite, this is a calcite. And when I was explaining to my parents at one booth what they can see there, the dealer was obviously amazed about the 7-year-old boy explaining all these things to his parents. And then he made like a riddle with me. He pulled a rock from the desk and said, "Do you know what that is?" And I had to think a little about it because it was not one of my favorites. And then I said, "It could be a stilbite." Actually, it was a stilbite from India. And he said, "You know what? This is your prize. You may keep it." And I still have this rock too. It's not among my zeolite top 10, but it's still there. And it links me to Günther Klim, the one dealer that I have a friendship with since 43 years.
So I love
very
dealers
nice thing to remember.
Recognize that passion and do something to kind of help fuel it. So big.
You know very well how this works with your kids club for the minerals. So it's nice to receive such a gift. And it was a learning experience for me because I knew if I'm good at what I'm doing in my hobby as well, then it will be rewarding. And so that really gave me another push. And obviously, the word spread to my greater family. And a great uncle of mine had a friend who was a professor at the Ruhr University for mineralogy. And he was going to go to retirement. And he kept some minerals that he did not just give to the university for himself, for young collectors. And I benefited from his generosity because he sent me a big parcel of minerals from all over Germany that he field collected, wrapped in newspaper. And the thrill of opening these newspaper wrappings, not knowing what was in there, I still feel the thrill today. And it's very close to opening a flat that the dealer shows you and you don't know what's coming. Very nice, very nice. You get addicted to that. It's like Christmas whenever you think about it.
Exactly.
So that was great. And I continued to collect minerals, and my parents helped me to subscribe to mineral magazines back then. Most of them were black and white. I mean, it's very difficult to convey the thrill of mineral collecting if you see minerals only in black and white, but it worked out. But Lapis was one of the mineral magazines that I subscribed to, and that I still do.
Still a great magazine, absolutely.
Yeah, and at a little bit late age, like a teenager, we went like mineral collecting in the Black Forest. First by bike, because that was the means of transportation that we had. And so you found things like this galena you found close to my hometown in the woods of the Black Forest. It's an old mine dump where you can dig for things like that. But other than that, we primarily picked up ticks in the woods, which I don't like very much. And the year after, my friend of mine had already a car and a driving license. So we went to Austria because we were thrilled of these emeralds from Habachtal and all that. But let me tell you, except for a lot of bruises, because of reckless climbing, we did not find too many things there. But it was an adventure anyway, fostering friendship and all the like. And coming back to Lapis, I always leafed it through and read the articles, and it broadened my knowledge about minerals. But I once stumbled across an ad of Helmut Brückner, and some of you may remember him. He is at that time, at least, he was one of the very active dealers in Europe and had a very fine selection of minerals. And so I saw the ad, and I still have that as well, because I grabbed the October 1988 issue of Lapis that opened my eye. You see, it looked like this back then. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the zip code down here, it's the same zip code of my hometown. So I said, whoops, is that possible at all? This guy lives in my hometown. How can that be? And I asked my mother, do you think I can call this person? And she said, you know what? He probably has so many rocks that he is willing to sell them to you, and this is his business to pick up the phone and tell you he's available. So I did that. And so that was part of a friendship that grew over the years. I was a good client, but I was also an employee because for 2 consecutive years, I helped him at the Munich booth of his and sold like fluorite cubes and all that things.
Now, I got a picture of a very young gentleman here on my screen.
Oh, really?
Who looks
I see.
similar to somebody I know. Who could that be?
Okay. I realized I changed stylist and hairdresser since then. Whether this was a good move or not, I have to ask my wife. But in this case, I think it's a nice reminiscence of better days, more hairy days at least.
Hairier days.
Hairier days, exactly. So that was very nice, and I've been probably getting back to Munich ever since, every year. But I had a little slowdown during times at university and when raising a young family. But around 2000 and I think it was 2006, I started going back to the Munich show, and I also subscribed to the Mineralogical Record in that year, which was a very good move because I got aware of the DVDs of What's Hot in Munich.
Yes,
and,
I understand that there was a very famous actor who played an important part in the next.
Exactly. So I watched this video very carefully, and there was this German guy that was very proficiently talking about minerals, particularly tourmalines. Back then, I did not realize he is the tourmaline king. Yeah. So we all know who we are talking about. It's Gerhard Wagner. And I saw him and said, okay, obviously the mineral bug is also, it's in Europe. You can find it there. Just I haven't met these guys yet. So the year after that, I ran into him at Markus Budel's booth, and I bravely introduced myself to him. And I said, you're the famous actor of What's Hot in Munich. He looked at me and said, who is that? And if you know Gerhard, he likes very much pulling your legs, but he's not used to being pulled the legs by a run-by stranger. So there were 2 ways to resolve this issue. Either stop teasing or becoming friends. We decided to do the latter. And it's been a great friendship in the hobby and beyond since then. And I'm so glad that I met him back then, because he was really showing me, say, the history behind the business, the do's and don'ts, the connections, the networks, and some of the stories that you would not find out yourself. And that was very helpful. It was funny as well, since we've been enjoying going to Sainte-Marie together. And in 2016, we even went to the Denver show together. And some of you that are at the show now will remember that we met there for the first time. And it was breathtaking, all these shows. And I think I would be overwhelmed by Tucson, but Denver was just the amount that I could digest easily. And maybe because of the lack of oxygen at the high level altitude of Denver, I was a bit dizzy, because it was a feast for my collection. It was a drain to my budget this year, but I'm still in love of this whole time and the city. It was a great time.
Well, I mean, also, you are quite a tall individual. We can't see it right now with you sitting down, but you're reaching that Brian Lee's height. So that air is even more rarefied. So I think it's
whenever we meet, we are having a summit, you know? So after the show, I received more frequent visits from visitors from abroad. I started filing a guest book, updated my website so I could be found. And I also had numerous sessions with professional photographers to do photos of my minerals, like Jeff Scoville, Joachim Kallen, and Albert Russ. I even at some time did some photos myself, and I just restarted that a couple of months ago, because Corona has it that you have to stay at home. So shooting a mineral is not the worst thing to stay healthy, I assume. So yes, this was really great, and I meet interested people. I therefore call my collection a private museum. So why that? Because I think people should just get a sense that I'm generously showing them to the collection, provided they have some reference that I can rely on. That's just for my own protection, and also to know that it's a worthwhile exercise, because I'm typically doing that during business hours, and but it has always been worthwhile doing. And I enjoy the exchange with mineral collectors all over the world. So having said that, in early 2019, Christoph Keilmann approached me because he wanted me to participate in the Munich show 2019, Who Collects Writes History. And I was very flattered because he wanted me to exhibit for the topic of aesthetic mineral collecting. And this is absolutely my cup of tea. And so I said yes, and I gladly did that because it was a great show. There was some fame involved in that, so I can no longer just undercover walk any of the shows, but it's been great, and the topic was just perfect for me, and it was probably once in a lifetime exercise.
Well, it was a fantastic exhibit, and we actually filmed you for What's Hot in Munich, and we've been promoting that. And Alan Hart, who is actually online with us today, he did a great interview with you there. And
yeah, that was fun.
Just to look at his enthusiasm gives you kind of an idea of the quality of your pieces. And you got the show book from Munich 2019 there, and that's your
very nice presentation of my collection in there. So I liked it very much, but this was only the foreplay of a much even nicer encounter with my friends from the Mineralogical Record, who approached me early 2020 for a report on my collection in the aftermath of Munich. And so, of course, I said yes. And it was fun doing that with Wendell, and I think the article came out great. When it was issued in May 2020, unfortunately, we already had Corona, so I could not really tap into the fame that was created through the article. And so many of the requests for visits I could not really reply to, or at least could not allow to happen. Traveling was not possible, and for health and security reasons, I still abstain from doing that. But times will change, I'm sure. In the near future, hopefully, it will get back to people being able to visit my collection, and gladly looking forward to that.
And for the viewers who are not subscribers of the Mineralogical Record, this right here is the issue of the Mineralogical Record. This is the May-June 2020 issue that has the article on Fabian, as he was talking about, and lots of just wonderful, wonderful photographs of his collection. Here is the old museum. You've changed it quite a bit since then, and just chock full of wonderful photographs. Congratulations on this. Absolutely a great piece. And just to be clear, for those of you who happen to be in Europe and Germany, again, Fabian is about an hour and a half away from Sainte-Marie. He's very open to sharing his collection with you, but you have to go to the website, his website, and he'll share the URL with you in a second. Make a reservation there and share with him what your background is, what your interest is, and any reference that you can, so that he can get a better idea of who you are. And he's very generous with his time and with his collection. So, Fabian, what's the URL for your website there?
It's www.thewildfangcollection.com. Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. Now, Fabian, I know we're dying to get to your minerals, but I do want to talk to you quickly about your philosophy about collecting. What is, in your mind, kind of the primary quality the specimen must possess in order for you to consider acquiring it for your collection?
It has to have a wow factor. It's a personal wow factor, so it's very subjective. I call my mineral collection aesthetic mineral collection. So what is this? It's something to do with beauty, but it's hard to describe. I try to come up with a number of criteria to be more specific, but it's not a either or you have to have it all together. It's about shape, balance, proportion, juxtaposition, colors for sure, and then some extravaganza and maybe some character. So that sounds like a description of a person at some point. And
in a way it is, yeah.
There's some similarity. I mean, like a stain on a crystal, you could look at as a mistake, like freckles in a beautiful face. Are these a mistake? No, they add to the character of the person. And so I think some of the little imperfections of nature can add to a piece as well. But typically I like shapes that remind me of V's, X's, flowers, trees. I'm not too much into collecting animal shapes, but I think stars, rays, these are shapes that appeal to me in general. And I'm a rainbow color addict. So if you have a tourmaline for me in many colors, I'm blown away.
Right.
And so you will find lots of these colorful minerals in my collection. Other than that, I'm really looking for the balance of main crystal to matrix, the contrast, so that something is sticking out. I don't like a black mineral on a black matrix, but a black mineral on a white matrix, that could be wonderful. And so you will see examples of all these criteria in my collection, but I never count how many points they get. It's the overall impression. And I look for the idea that Mother Nature had in mind. So I'm not particularly looking for an absolutely intact specimen. It may be repaired, because I believe that if you have a human being with a broken ankle and you have it professionally fixed, this does not impair the esteem of a person. So how can a breakage of a crystal that happens in a million years under the earth make you not want the mineral specimen if the overall setup, appearance, colors, and everything is there? So I'm more generous with that part. And lastly, I collect things I like. I don't collect them for their value. I don't want to think about all the time about the net present value of my moves I make. So sometimes I'm a bit more spontaneous in deciding for a mineral. But that's life, and this is the way I collect, and I love it that way.
Well, I love that. I love people who have as you do, a philosophy for collecting, and it doesn't matter what other people say about it. You collect primarily for aesthetics, and it's your criteria of aesthetics that's important. And I think it's paid off great. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to start taking a look at some of your minerals if we can. And while we're doing that, maybe you can talk to me a little bit about, as people get to know you personally, they know that a personal relationship, kind of that interpersonal relationship, is really, really important in being a good friend of you. How does that factor into who you choose to acquire minerals from? And maybe you can answer that as we're going over to the minerals.
I'm a male. I don't know whether I can do two things at the same time. So you're testing me now really to the edge. I try to. Because now you won't see me anymore because I'm pointing at the cases. You quickly realize that two values are important in my business and private life. That's a high level of trust and fairness. I think life is a give and take, and you have to keep that in mind and seek for long-term relationships. And people that live up to this will have me easygoing and probably fun to do business with. And there are just a few people that let me down over all these years. And, elephants do remember, that changed the fundamentals of our working relationship, I'd say so. But I'm not a person that is into retaliation or the like. Just so we are here at the first shelf. I don't want to stand here too long, but I want to build a bridge to a show that you had 4 weeks ago. Emanuele Marini was pointing out the sailboat in his case, and you probably saw some steps of its restoration. And already back then it was in my case, and I was really excited to see it also in the lab. Now it's here, and you can see it again.
I love it. Now we know where it is. We never ask people like dealers or labs where the pieces went, because that's a lot of times that's private information. But now we know where it went. So if you get to Müllheim, you can take a look at the sailboat yourself.
Yeah, that's true. So I slowly go through. If you have something that interests you more than others, you just tell me and I make a quick break or zoom in. So as a start.
Now, Fabian, what is the kind of long-term vision that you have for your collection and what you're doing with the museum there?
This is a question I really hate, because I just turned 51, and I hope that I'll be able to continue collecting for
next 51 years.
Yes, hopefully. And actually, I'm still enjoying acquiring pieces. I'm very seldomly de-exciting minerals from my collection. And I would love to continue doing that. I have family members that are interested in the collection, but there's no firm plan on what to do with it in the future.
That was a killer aquamarine that you zoomed in.
Yeah, I like it's almost a velvet-like surface. Yeah. But the top is mirror-like, and the contrast and the proportion, and it has lots of the things I'm looking for in a mineral.
That's wonderful. And I understand you do all the trimming yourself by the fireside.
Yes. Now you have to explain to the audience what that means.
Oh, we're just playing around before the show.
Exactly.
Pulling Raquel's leg a little bit.
So this is a small Morganite. I typically don't collect things in that size, but these two killer specimens, that's easily 10 centimeters across. And I typically go more for palm-sized specimens with some exceptions. But okay, I had it for 25 years.
Now, Fabian, those two are so perfectly matched. Did you acquire them at the same time?
No.
Because they're like ebony and ivory.
I probably acquired them with 5 years apart. So I hope I'm not too quick. Otherwise, you have to give me some direction.
Now, that kunzite was on a cover of Lapis, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, it's. I think it used to be an Herboboda piece, and the first Lapis appearance was in the 80s. So it's an old piece.
You actually have quite a few pieces that have made the covers of some prestigious magazines around the world.
Yes, and if I find a piece that appeared on a magazine cover, I don't mind. I would prefer the other way around, having it in the first place and then someone picking it for a cover.
Right. After it's on the cover, the prices tend to have an extra 0 or 2.
Exactly.
That was a Michigan copper down there we saw in the front?
That's a Michigan copper, yeah, with a cuprite layer on top. Yeah. And this looks like, I said no animals, but this looks like a brontosaur, and in the back there is like a seahorse copper from Rudabanya, so in Hungary. And so these two coppers are like my coppers too.
And then you got a turtle right next to it.
Yes, yeah.
Fabian, can we go back to the Starmanite? Danny Drincillo. He mentioned that it's a jewel.
Which one?
Starmanite. Don't know how you pronounce it. The one lower bottom, yeah.
The Starmanite.
Yes.
This one, yeah. Mm-hmm. I like, talking about shape. There are probably nicer colors of this species, but the shape, it's a spray. It has a little brownish matrix to it. So it makes a perfect Wildfang piece. Sorry for that.
Better watch out. We're going to have a new term like a Wilbur. It's going to be a Wildfang.
Oh, I wouldn't mind. If it wasn't about the damage of a specimen, I wouldn't be even more fond of that.
Fabian, also someone was asking, where do you get your bases?
Yeah, some minerals I get already equipped with bases, which I appreciate. Typically, when I buy a specimen, I would like to have a base and a professional photo. Because why do I have to do that when the dealer has it in their hands and can do that with some time on their side and without the hassle of getting the people to visit you and all that? But that doesn't always work out. And so I have a friend from Austria who visits me maybe 3-4 times a year, and he does the prints. And later on, he brings me the bases at next visits. And that's where I get my bases from. And he knows my taste, so I can even leave him with the minerals, and I know 9 out of 10 will be perfect, and the 10th will be okay. And it saves me a lot of time.
So Fabian, let's go back to that wolfenite on the first shelf.
This one from Amfuati in the Congo.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's great.
Yeah, I like the sugar crust, the icing on that orange crystal. What I also like is this twisted crystals from China. So like a dancing pear.
Well, now you love your kind of your crisscrosses. I've seen a lot of pieces of yours that have that, and you had mentioned it a little bit earlier in the interview.
Yeah, crisscrosses. Here I have a couple of spheres. And then things that look like a flower, like this sea rose.
Wow.
Oh, that was the calcite case for those who haven't recognized it.
Yeah, so Fabian, a couple of questions. How do you organize your specimens? What's kind of the logistic? And also, how many pieces do you have in your collection currently?
Yeah, I have, starting with the easiest answer first, I have some 850 pieces in the collection, and this number is, I try to keep that number about it, because I sell some minerals or dispose of them into the mineral market. And so typically I try for one good piece I take in, I try to part with one that is not that perfect. But it's very difficult sometimes, because you heard me mentioning character, and character, all my minerals have a character that I would not like to miss. And so it's a tough call.
Fabian, can we go back to that Spanish fluorite on the first shelf? I love that.
Yeah, that's a impressive, lovely thing. It's 15 centimeters, the specimen in height, and it's got these phantoms and these structures on the beveled faces.
Yeah, that's the part that we couldn't see before, but when you zoom in like that, you can see that here. Growth or etching on the edges there, and it's just, I love that. That is so wonderful.
Yeah. We also have few requests. They want to look closely to the Müllheim fluorite with a stilbite.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's quite a rarity. You don't find many of these. It's an insane color. I mean, you hardly find any other place with that kind of green. And I like the accenting brown, yellowish brown of the stilbite.
The color contrast is fantastic, and the saturation of that green, a true emerald green, which gets Raquel all excited.
Can we also look at the elongated fluorite? I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's also. You mean this one?
Yeah, I bet so. Crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like 8 centimeters in height from Erongo.
Alan say it's a killer.
Oh, thank you. Alan is so kind. So that's my television set from Yaguangshan.
Oh, I love that piece.
Yeah, you see all the phantoms and you see the matrix through it, and then the quartz crystal pinched through it on both sides. It's really nice.
You call it your television piece, and I understand because I've seen it live, and this video does it zero justice. But that thing is like water clear, and you have that beautiful color zonation in the center there. That's much, much better. That is just such a killer piece.
Yeah. I'm just a bit disappointed that there's still no What's Hot in Munich running on it, but I'm working on that.
Talk to Alan. He's the boss.
And there's even an old German one from the Sauberg.
Ooh, okay. We got. It looks like a thumbnail of. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. And finally, last shelf. And somebody asked, how do I arrange the pieces? And obviously, I have some cases specializing in a species, like the fluorite case. But I also mix fluorites with other minerals in other cases. So I have maybe 5 or 6 cases with a dedication. So this is a little bit of alpine, but I don't collect alpine for the fact that it's alpine. It's just that you have beautiful smoky quartzes from the Alps and very nice lustrous grindles and the like. But particularly, I like minerals, even from the Alps, that are special, like this like Christmas tree. It's a rock crystal, and the base is made out of chalcopyrite, and so it's just a nice one for Christmas. Yeah. And you have the angel wings on this adularia just next to it.
And this is another Swiss piece that we had. Could you zoom in a little bit closer? Is there room to do that?
Yes, like this. Let me see that you can see. And again, there is a crossing of the adularia. So it's an adularia cross with the hematite wings on top.
Wonderful piece. Fabian, people is really congratulating you. Everyone is drooling. Your collection.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I hope so. We did not rehearse that. We did not rehearse that to perfection because we had to improvise a little today. So more quartzes. They come in different varieties, as you all know. But they also come in interesting associations. So, but as I said, I typically like to mix them so you have more than just one mineral in a case. And there can be just small things like this spray burst from Namibia.
Okay. There's just something about the aesthetics of that burst just grabs you.
Exactly. And I don't think I have sent you the photo of it, but you would recognize that this is really a nice one.
Yeah.
Fabian, someone is wondering about your new cases, so if you can talk about that.
Yeah. I started with my first case when I was 16, and I got it from this famous Swedish furniture company that I don't mention the name.
IKEA.
Don't say it, Brian, please. but back then, it was 2 meters high, and it had got one lamp in it in the ceiling. One lamp, maybe 20 watts, and I'm not talking LED watts. I'm talking light bulbs. So
I'm sorry,
pretty much
Could you zoom back in on that brucite and then do the rose quartz next to it? Those are just wonderful pieces.
Yeah. So just that you understand that with that first case, every mineral turned into a dark and ugly just because of the lack of light. So, but it was a case and I had it afforded myself. And, at that age, you decide whether to buy a rock or to buy a case, or rather 10 rocks or a case. And so the choice was always for the rocks, which I think is a very wise decision. Looking back, what you could have in the 70s, what could you have bought with the money you have to spend today for a mediocre rock? So that was the first generation. And the second generation, now counting in lights, they had 12 lights. Someone asked for the aqua on the shoal, the aqua cross on the shoal crystal. Okay.
And Fabian, thank you for knowing that even though I said brucite, I was talking about the brookite. But let's go back to that rose quartz for a second, because actually I want to bring it up on my screen because the video doesn't do justice for it. It is such a killer piece. Maybe Raquel can highlight my screen there. That's what it really looks like when it's properly lit. And what's going on is Fabian's camera is it's changing the white balance, so you don't really see it there. But when it's backlit like that, this is such a killer piece. So Thank you. Let's go back to Fabian's camera there.
And the juxtaposition is just great. So go back to the cases. The next level of cases had 12 halogen lights. And these 12 halogen lights created first of all, they created a lot of heat, which is neither good for your minerals nor for your utility bill, because they were just like smelters. Mm-hmm. And so you had to be very careful that especially your sulfurs and fluorides wouldn't break after some time of exposure to that heat. And so I replaced them by LEDs, which was a short-term remedy. And since then, I was looking for showcases that would do more justice to the minerals, because I was sure some of the pieces I was willing to let go, I probably did not see in the right light for a long time. And
Interesting. Okay.
So I would have loved to buy the cases that all the dealers use these days. So it's these jewel shoal cases and all that. But they were prohibitively expensive. And so I think things come to those who can wait. At the beginning of this year, a friend in Italy, Daniele, he came up with a design that had everything that I was looking for in a showcase, but it was reduced to the things that a collector really needs. It's not so much about being flexibly carried around and dust-proof and all that. And so I decided to replace all my cases. And you highlighted the picture at the beginning of how it used to look. So I replaced all of the old cases with this new generation. And so if some minerals still are a little bit in the dark, you have to just remember that I only did that 4 weeks ago. I'm busy. At the end of the year rally started. So I put in all the rocks again into the cases. I did it as a one-man show because of COVID. Nobody could help me. And so some of the lights may still not be optimally inclined to hit all the minerals the way I like them.
Well, so, Fabian, I think it's okay to share with the viewers that you and I started talking about having you on the show a long time ago. And it was always tentative because you wanted the new cases in and we weren't sure we were going to get them in on time.
Exactly. Like to show you this one because this is my chrome dravite on matrix, and the crystal is 12 centimeters long, and it doesn't have the brown that they typically have at the base, so it's pure green, and can you see that how it's
Yeah, it comes through wonderfully.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Spectacular.
So looking at the matrix, I wouldn't have picked it for the matrix, of course. But to get these on matrix is a miracle for itself, given the fact how they are found.
Well, I love the elegance of the crystal that is juxtaposed by the brutality of the matrix, if you will.
Yes, brutality covers it well.
That one is especially feminine, that piece.
Yeah, I like the mesmerizing open colors of this one. It's pastel green and pastel rose. I really love that.
I understand you've named that the Miami Vice.
How come? Okay, and...
Oh, I see an old friend right there.
Yes, I think I have to zoom into that one. It's one of the few unrepaired pieces, matrix pieces from Pedernera. And it's for sure a very lovely blue cap Pedernera. It's called the Star. And there is a tribute to my dear friend Gerhard, because he once owned it. And it's a long story, but I'm so glad that we kept it between the two of us so that this rock is still accessible for both of us. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. It has wonderful provenance there.
And someone asked about keeping provenance. Of course, I have now, in the meantime, it's the 7th generation of a program where I meticulously catalog all the information about my specimens. And provenance is among these details that I keep. I keep old labels in a folder, and I have all the pictures that I can hold of. So that's all important to me, because the future is always the result of the past. And for some collectors like me, it is important to know what the past was, and adding another chapter to the book of such a specimen just makes me proud.
Now, Fabian, is that system online?
This is online, yeah.
So is it only accessible by you?
Yes, just by me.
That's nice to always have it in your pocket whenever you need it.
Exactly. I always have it with me, and I will add a function that you can, when you come to the museum, you can QR code, and then you enter a page that is made for visitors, where you just can scan the number that is on each of the, you put in the 1330, and you get all the information that is relevant to a visitor. And by press of a button, you can go to Mindat for the mineral, for the locality. So thanks to the Mindat that I'm also a sponsor of, they provide this service. This is really a great job. It helps enormously to make sure that you get everything stored in one place and you don't have to store it redundantly.
Wonderful.
So the rhodochrosites, you notice they need to have a different light. So it's a warm light color. It would not work with the light that is good for tourmaline. So don't mix the two. And you probably have seen that before. That's the rhodo that appeared on the show poster of, I think it was the Denver 2019.
Well, I'm pulling this up on my screen right now.
2020,
that was the show poster, or the proposed show poster, I believe, for the 2020 Westward Look show, which we know has been canceled. So hopefully that will remain as the show poster into 2021. We will see, but it is an absolutely killer piece. And you had that on exhibit in Munich, I believe.
Yes, I did that. Exhibited that. So this is a crazy piece, as Niels just confirmed. So the rhodo is growing on top of a silver wire as a base.
Now, Fabian, I have to pull that up on my screen because
I think it's a bit. Yeah, please
look at that. I mean, this is absolutely superb. Wire silver with the rhodochrosite growing right on top of it. I mean, the balance and the delicacy of that just defies imagination. And this is from the Uchuchacua mine in Peru.
In Peru, exactly.
Wonderful.
But
All
it's not the only place where you find nice rhodos. Like, can you see that? That's
Yes,
a nice
classic
example. And I think I have to take that out for a second because it's just such a crystal. Can you see that?
Well, I mean, there's a reason it's called Jello Rock, and I mean, just incredible. And I've got a picture of it up on my screen right now that Raquel just switched to. I mean, that's why rhodochrosite is one of the most collectible specimens in the mineral world. I mean, absolutely fantastic. Congratulations for acquiring that.
So, and of course, there's South Africa, but that's not, except for the one on the show poster, I'm not boasting any of these huge scalenohedron pieces.
Oh, wow. Raquel, why don't you launch the poll? I've been so caught up in looking at everything, I've lost track of time.
Okay.
So you can launch the poll.
Do I have to speed up, or is it okay?
I don't think anyone on the show wants you to speed up.
Okay, good.
And Fabian, you could ignore that poll. There we go.
Yeah, I had to make sure that it doesn't get into my way while trying to zoom in on some of the pieces like this. What many people wrongfully identify as a big spite on a Utah topaz. No, it's a stained quartz with the U white from Brumado. But at first glance, you could really be mistaken and think it's something else. And talking about some nice accents of colors, I mean, I told you about the snowstorm out there. I think this mineral's been out there for some time. And
snowfall on Tanzanite.
Snowfall on the Tanzanite, which doesn't happen very often in Arusha, I'm afraid. Whereas on such an axonite, it could happen because that's from Pulver Mountain.
Yeah. I think everybody is just entranced. Nobody's typing anything. They're just jaws are on the ground.
More to come. So there it is, my Brazilianite, just a small one.
That is a great. Can you zoom in on that? I don't think I have a photo. No, I don't. If you could zoom in on that, that is fantastic.
Yes, and it was a Simplon anhydrite. Somebody was asking that.
Yeah, so the story real quickly is my father was mining a Brazilianite down in Brazil before anyone knew what it was. He gave a sample to a guy named Fred Poe, who brought it back to America, identified it, and then named it as Brazilianite.
Cool. Cool story. And talking about alpine specimens that you don't collect for the locality, but because it's just an awesome piece. Look how the epidot sits on the bisolite needles. Don't even ask me whether I will have the guy from Austria do a print on that. No, nobody's pressing this into anything if I'm alive. So the needles, you are just afraid they will break if you look at them.
Yeah.
So this is also one of my favorites, this anglesite with this color and the side spray of crystals.
That Moroccan anglesite to me is wonderful. I love, and this is kind of weird. I love yellow minerals because you don't see a heck of a lot of them. You see a lot of sulfur.
Pretty rare.
That is amazing.
And another juxtaposition piece. Look at this fluorite on prasem with arsenopyrite and this shooting out of this illvite at the base. I mean, probably another of these exercises you can only do in Germany in the wintertime. Yeah. But I have to correct you, it's all natural as far as we know.
I'll tell you, China continually amazes people. Fantastic piece.
Fabian, how much of the collection is online for the viewers?
I think I have something like 50 pieces on my website, just as a sneak preview in the gallery. And maybe on Facebook, another 20 that are not duplicates of what is on the website. So less than 100. Look at these three pillars here.
Oh,
the red Himalaya, and then the topaz from Uru Preto and the Valnodask. And then another topaz with a color that I like very much. And this lepidolite stole around it. This is like a blue head with a white silvery stole around it. I really like that.
Beautiful presentation.
Yeah. And as you can see, I like to mix small things with big things, and so I still like to buy rocks that cost $100. If they are just nice, you have to pick them and find them. Nice Euclase, one of my favorites too. And this emerald here. So another V. This Pedernera tourmaline in grayish blue.
Fabian, do you check the fluorescence on your specimens?
This is nothing particular that adds to me wanting the piece. If it has it, nice, but I don't check for it. I do check with the UV light because I want to see the number of repairs. So just I understand how many there are. But that's a different purpose for using UV light to find the glues.
We have another question.
I'm sorry, was that Raquel?
Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, oh, wow, look at that. Look at that tourmaline V. I think it's fair to say if anyone has a tourmaline that's shaped like a W, Fabian would be very interested.
Yes, you see, I'm falling short of the W. There are a number of V's, and look at this Malkan, and look how the quartz is sitting on top of these two Malkan crystals.
It looks like it's so delicately balanced.
Yeah, exactly. So, and down there is another of my favorites.
Now, that was recently, wasn't that on the cover of Rocks and Minerals?
Yes, it was, yeah. And I just like fans.
And that's the mango quartz out of Colombia.
Yeah, I really like that one. And an appetite. An appetite. From Pakistan. So, coming close to the end, but lacking some silvers from Kongsberg and Germany, and copper from Kazakhstan, Red Dome. And I particularly like that Proustite, and I promise to you I will switch off the light as soon as we are finished with the show.
Yeah, I think I heard Raquel gasp when she saw that.
Exactly. But what is the sense in having a mineral that you cannot show? So you much rather make sure that it stays in the dark for 364 days a year. But for an occasion like this, you allow it to stick out its neck off the crowd.
What is, oh, that is crazy.
Yeah, that's a Lafarge pyromorphite tree. You see that? And wolfenite.
Is that a San Francisco wolfenite?
Yeah, it's a San Francisco. And one of these insanely red cinnabarites. So, and we were talking about contrasts, Brian, and I promised that I will show you a black mineral that, because of its shape and the contrast with the white matrix, I like among the top pieces of my collection because of its appearance. You see that? The Morganite from Ilfeld.
That's wonderful. Fabian, it seems like you really enjoy the sprays. And so when you see a wonderful spray, what's the sound effect that plays in your head? Is it like, or is it more kind of like?
That was very close. I will not entertain people by trying to do anything similar to what you just did.
You found one of my little tricks that I was trying to get you in.
Okay, sorry. So, talking about jewels, this is a jewel calcite from Elmwood. It's really
classic Elmwood.
Jammy. And that's the rock on the Munich book.
And then in the far right corner, you have a Shattuckite that I'd love to take a look at.
Yes.
That I just love the aesthetics of that piece, the Shattuckite on the malachite, and that's from Namibia.
Yeah, Kalkfeld. So I have to skip one layer here and go into some of these rocks, like anglesite, not yellow, but a nice flowery shape. And these colors here. I would like to finish on the one piece everyone would expect me to present. Okay.
And people know what that is.
That's in this shelf. And that is the famous rose. There it is. You see?
And up on my screen, I've just pulled, this is the Westward Look show poster from the 2019 show. And that piece is just a marvelous, marvelous piece. And it's got such great history behind it. It's so wonderful. And that was one of the highlights at Munich. What's that, Raquel?
Yes, I don't know the history, actually.
That was, I think it went back and forth with Daniel Trinchillo, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that was covered in one of the What's Hot in Tucson. So let me see if I can find that in a past interview and share that with everybody.
Yeah, it was once in the Peter Via collection. So there is lots of history on this one. For its, as you can assume, it does not have a long shelf life as yet. But,
I mean, it's really, when you call it the calcite rose, everybody gets it, and it's such a perfect piece. So cool.
Fabian, what's the size of the rose approximately?
The size is approximately 6 to 7 centimeters in height. So the rose has a diameter of 4 centimeters. So it's not huge, but it's
killer.
It's very fine.
So Fabian, from everyone, from Ian, from Adolfo, Evans, from the more than 200 people we have, everyone is congratulating you for your collection, and thank you for sharing. Incredible.
Raquel, are there questions in the Q&A that we can ask of Fabian before we go into the 5 question segment of our show?
Yes, I have been going through some of them, but we have one early on from a close friend of yours. He asked if you were able to purchase minerals during the virus, and if you can show us any.
What was it?
If if you were able to purchase any minerals during coronavirus time, and can you show it?
Okay. Yes, there's one that I can show.
The question comes from Gerhard.
From Gerhard. Curious brother of mine.
Oh, now we know it's a loaded question.
Come, brother, confide in me. Is it a particular one you're looking for, or is it an earnest question?
That I don't know. He didn't say.
It's got to be a particular one, knowing Gerhard.
You have to help me. Write what you want to see. Otherwise, I show you the first thing that comes to my mind, which is probably the last one that went in, which is easy because it's this aqua on white.
That's amazing.
Albite matrix.
Those two aqua shells are astonishing, and the different shades of, you got all the different shades of blue in those shells.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I hope that's the one he was asking. We also have
no, I don't think so.
No?
Knowing Gerhard, he probably blames me for not getting to grips with his question.
Okay.
You'll have a long conversation with him once we're off the air.
Yes, we'll straighten that out. I make a private session for him.
Someone was also asking if you could share the maker of your cases, if that would be possible.
Who designed and created the cases?
Okay. I mentioned his name briefly. That is Daniele from Creativa Group in Italy. And I'm sure he'll have more of these if you're interested. He'll be probably in the position to even get rid of them by selling them to you. But it's also nice to just be in a position to specify what you really need. And I was lucky that we had a process of going back and forth to finding out what I really needed. And I also got a sample case to test. And when I was really sure, I ordered all of the cases. And that it was good for both of us to have this kind of initial business. And I think I'm done for good. Yeah, and that was my intention after going through probably 4 different generations of cases. I now find it's coming to an end, and I don't want any more. It's enough, and so I have to limit myself. If I need more, then I bought too many. So be careful.
And again, that's Daniele. His company is Creativa Group, Creativa Group, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right.
Fabian, one more question. What is the clear mounting material fixing the mineral to the base?
I usually use hot glue, and you find different grades. You find the super gluing one that I have difficulties in getting off the mineral. And I have the one that is more clear, but it's not that strong. So for dealers that go to shows and permanent, all the time moving back and forth, they probably have to go for the more secure solution. For me, it's fine to use the clear one, which I think it's a Patex particularly clear. I looked it up on the internet. I cannot tell you exactly the brand name, but it was Patex extra clear. And it's not that strong. And using some alcohol, you can always get it off the base and off the mineral quite easily. But take your time. If you try it too early, you risk to break the mineral.
Raquel, I think your microphone is, there you go.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Fabian. Brian, I think we are ready for the 5 fire questions.
Okay, Fabian, are you ready for this? You know how this works, right?
Brian, we have problems with your microphone again. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
Yes, I just maybe he can get it. So Fabian is gonna be me. I'm not as funny as as Brian doing the questions, but I guess in the meantime.
Okay, try harder.
There you go. I can do that in German, actually. No, that we do. So, you know the spiel. So basically, 5 questions, 2 options. You just answer quickly. There you go. So first one, wine or water?
It's on me to say now yes or no, or wine or water.
Yes,
definitely water, but guess what? Mineral water.
Mineral water. Okay, well, okay, good one. So yeah, so basically you answer what you think, and then we test with the audience if they got to get to know you this interview, basically. Okay. So second question, cabin in the mountains or cottage by the sea?
Cottage by the sea.
Wow, interesting. Brian, you want to go ahead? Are you ready?
Okay, question number 3. Fabian, your choice of food, surf, meaning seafood, or turf, meaning meat?
Turf.
Turf?
Yes.
Okay. Question number 4. For your fun car, Maserati or Ferrari?
Sorry, Gerhard, Maserati.
Oh my God, you're gonna get scolded. I'm sorry. Now, Fabian, this is the last question. Remember, all of your answers are correct. Okay, it's the viewing audience that's trying to guess your correct answer. I know you are great in both of these, but you have to tell me singing or dancing.
I'm looking at my wife. You cannot see her, but she is smiling all over her face. I'd say singing.
Is she shaking her head or nodding her head?
She's content with the answer. I'm sure I couldn't do really wrong there.
Well, that's why we designed the question. These are custom curated just for our guests. Raquel, we ready to hear what our viewers chose? Is it wine or water?
People thought he was a wine drinker.
Now people are learning. Cabin in the mountains or cottage by the sea?
Cabin in the mountains.
Surf or turf?
This one was right. Turf.
They went with turf. Okay, so that's 1 out of 3 so far. Maserati or Ferrari?
Maserati.
Oh, they went with Maserati. Oh my God. Okay. And the final one, the most important question, singing or dancing?
That one was that test, but singing.
Singing. Okay. Well, they got 3 out of 5. So my lovely viewing audience, you know your Fabian quite well.
Thank you. I'm impressed.
Fabian, this is the end of the show. We're about an hour and 20 minutes into the show. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show with us and sharing with us your beautiful collection and taking us into your museum. I really, really appreciate it. And I know all our viewers do.
It was my pleasure. And it's great opportunity in times like these to have such a great audience visit my little museum. And so thank you very much for coming up with the idea, and Raquel and also Eloise, who cannot be there today. Thank you very much for taking care of this format. I really appreciate watching it every week.
I love to hear that. Thank you for being one of our strong supporters and for being our guest. For all of you who have tuned in today, thank you very much. If you want to check out Fabian's museum, of course, there is the link to the website in the chat section. Go on, register, and provide some background information on you, as well as 1 or 2 references that Fabian can check. For the rest of you, tune in tomorrow to Blue Cat Productions YouTube channel, and we are going to be airing the episode 24, the interview that we did with Jim and Gail Spann, or rather, as I like to say it, Gail and Jim Spann. And those are private collectors from Dallas, Texas, Rockwall. That aired on November 11th. So that was episode 24. That will go live tomorrow. And next week, tune in for our show, same bat time, same bat channel. We're going to have Jordi Fabre, who was the founder of Fabre Minerals, on our show. And that will be December 16th. And for all of you out there, December 16th, next week's show is going to be our final show for the year. We're going to take a few weeks off to enjoy the holidays. We hope all of you do the same. And we'll be back in 2021 with a whole new lineup. So until then, thank you again for tuning in. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you soon. Bye.